Welcome to a Junior VC Unfiltered. If you haven't already, do check out this series in video format on the a Junior VC YouTube channel. I am your host Nazin, and I have with me Keshav, Chetan, and Shelly. In this episode, we will discuss our latest piece on Nazara. Keshav, can you tell our listeners why we chose to write about Nazara this week?
Sure, Mazen. So I think it's one of the most interesting stories which we have had in the gaming system, because if you look at Nazara, right, it was started in 1999, and as it has evolved over the years, the gaming ecosystem in India has also evolved, right? So it has gone through various challenges, even near-death situations in 2000, the dot-com bubble, or 2017 when Geo came, right? But over the years, the different strategies which it has adopted, how it has built and now dreams to build a gaming empire, that was something which was very interesting for us to dig deeper into. And that's why we chose this topic.
Thanks. It certainly is an interesting story. Chetan, can you get us started by telling us how Nazara went from flash games on the web to landing a contract with EA Sports?
Yep. So I'd like to take a step back before Nazara was founded and talk about Nitesh, who is the founder of Nazara. He was very young when he found himself talking to Shami Kapoor and attending lectures about the internet and how it could be the future of business at his house, way ahead of everyone else in India. And that sort of molded his thoughts about media and how it can be propagated through the internet. So in 1999, when India had around 200,000 users and internet penetration was not as much, the Western world was actually progressing very fast. You saw Sony release the PlayStation, Nintendo was doing some good work. And just that year, Sega had released its very first online gaming console. And here, Nitish was ready to sort of take a bet on online gaming around 10, 15 years ahead of its time. So he set up Nazara.com, which was a singular website where people could come and play Flash games. However, around that time, like most other internet companies, there was a dot-com crash, and almost all these companies instantly lost a lot of money. But the trial that he was put through was beneficial for him because it made him ultra focused on profitability and cash flow and focus just on what is essential for the business. In 2004, feature phones began being widely adopted in India, and Nitish and team decided to give mobile gaming a shot. So they soon started launching paper download games with telecom operators such as BPL and Hutch. And this was perfectly timed with India's internet penetration adoption at that time. And after that, Nitish did something really wonderful, which was try and rope in Sachin Tendulkar. And he reportedly quoted $1 million. But I think Nitish managed to talk him down to $10,000, which was around 5 lakh rupees at that point in time. So once he had signed this on, Nazara was on the map. Everyone started noticing this gaming company, which had roped in one of the biggest cricket legend in India. And then it was easy for them to get the interest of investors, and they had raised their first seed round, which was $1.5 million. I think it was raised from Westbridge. And a key aspect of Nazara was that it was able to adapt to whatever was happening at that point in time. So when the dot-com crash happened, they had to resort to selling their personal computers in office to have some money to keep the company going. And then they started selling SMS packs, which was, if you think about it, completely out of their domain. But they were basically trying to do anything that would keep the company afloat. And when telecom operators were sort of making a lot of money, they decided to enter in between and pick onto the value-added services aspect of telecom operators. So the premise of value-added services or VAS is simple. Nazara would partner with the operators, and the operators would then bill their users for the games that they consume. So Nazara actually positioned itself as a company that would provide original branded mobile content and also tie the loop by being able to track the entire development, deployment, targeting of promotional campaigns on mobile platform. And at that time, margins in gaming were much higher. They were 40% if you compare it with something like music and ringtones, which were just around 5%. So soon enough, they were able to strike a deal with Tata, Airtel, and Vodafone. And value-added services sort of became the main revenue stream for Nazara. And then they went ahead and did another great achievement, which was to sign MS Dhoni. So now they had really great brand recall with two big superstars on the deck. And since cricket was the main sort of category in which Indian users were playing, this really was a big advantage for them. And in 2007, they ended up raising their second round of investment. Uh, but to be completely honest, while they were making money out of value-added services, they still hadn't found that single stream that or single business model that would actually exponentially grow their revenues. So what happened in 2008 was something that really helped them a long way, which was when EA Mobile, I'm sure a lot of us have used or played EA's games, EA's Electronic Arts, and they produce one of the best games in the world. And they were planning to enter India. However, they had been testing the water for a few years before entering, and they realized that Indians just play cricket on mobile gaming. And finally, when they were ready to look at India and say that, hey, they've started expanding the range of categories that Indians play in, they found only one stream through which they could enter, which was again through telecom operators. And they saw that Nazara already had a lot of existing tie-ups, which is a big moat for them. And they also had a tech stack that was designed to support games distribution and reproduction. So they ended up signing a deal, and this was a big one for both Nazara and EA because it gave Nazara exclusive privileges to market, distribute, reproduce, and sublicense all its content in India. And in return, EA was able to launch around 15 of its hit mobile games on Airtel and Vodafone. So this was a proper win-win deal for both parties. And Nazara was still playing around with pricing strategies that time, and they launched the first ever subscription-based mobile gaming platform. It was called Games Club. It was registered as gclub.com, and they did it with the help of Reliance, Arcom at that time, and Airtel. And this also ended up being a big hit. Here, people could subscribe for a fixed amount of time and get access to multiple games just through that subscription. And on the other end, for game developers, they could monetize their games from day one and reduce the cost of marketing because this platform would do that for them. Meanwhile, in the emerging markets, there had been a lot of technological infrastructure expansion initiatives which rapidly helped increase internet penetration. For example, in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Middle East, there was exponential growth in the number of internet users. And Nazara realized that it had just scratched the tip of the iceberg with India. And it was now ready to go ahead beyond India's borders and expand itself and try and reel off revenues from there.
Just an amazing story, the amount of grit that the founders had and how they got the company to this point. Keshav, can you shed some light on how Nazara went international and why they eventually decided to become a holding company in 2015?
Sure, Mazen. So I'll address it in two parts. First is on the decision to go international, right? So as Chetan rightly covered, I think the initial years were spent on just building a very good set of portfolio on the gaming part so that game developers could be attracted, striking licenses with, let's say, EA Sports as well as the telco companies to increase distribution. And then the next phase of 2010 to 15, I would say, was building the distribution more very slowly but effectively, right? So they didn't just want to restrict themselves to the India market and wanted to expand wherever the TG was relevant in terms of the gaming kind of users, which they could attract in other markets, right? And in July 2010, what they did for that was that as the partnership with Electronic Arts was solidifying, they entered into a tie-up with them to bring their portfolio of brands in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh also, apart from India, right? Apart from that, through their wholly owned subsidiary based in Dubai, they were managing gaming solutions offered by carriers in the Middle East, including Etihad, Etisalat, Saudi Telecom, all of that. And by the end of 2012, they had begun to sign deals in countries in the African subcontinent also. And they were banking on EA's evergreen flagship games, which included Need for Speed, FIFA, all of that, which were also a rage in those markets. Simultaneously, to increase its distribution reach, it was tying up with handset manufacturers. So one such deal was with Micromax, wherein the arrangement was to pre-install a certain number of EA titles on each unit sold. And apart from that, it also realized a very interesting thing, which was that as in the gaming, some gamers who were there, they just didn't want to sort of buy a monthly subscription. So what they did for them, and to be able to increase the choice for them, was that they offered them the ability to buy a day pass. And through that, they could really test out these games. If they were interested, they could eventually go on to buy these monthly subscription packs. So that was on the decision to go international, right? And then the second part was that why did they sort of move towards becoming a holding company, right? What they understood was that around the 2013 timeframe, the management felt that it might be beneficial to start investing in ventures who were building for the gaming space, because the environment itself was rapidly evolving, and they probably felt that they might not be able to capture or develop all the products which were needed for to cater to the gamers in-house itself. And then they started investing in startups as a very experimentation bet, right? So first such venture which they identified and picked was a company called Hashcube. And there primarily the intent was that they were buying into Hashcube's minimum viable product, which was the Quest model, right? So very quickly about Hashcube, what it was doing, it actually started in 2008, and they started with standalone games such as Sudoku on their website. What they understood was it wasn't receiving much traction in terms of users or ad revenue. So they quickly moved on to a Facebook platform, and the user adoption then skyrocketed. But the revenue model itself was still limiting, because the monetization channel was ad clicks through Facebook, and the numbers were not sustainable. So what they did at this stage was that they looked at the game economy model, and they started looking at in-app purchases and whether that could become an interesting, sustainable model. And they sort of added to the plain vanilla Sudoku game and started a quest model, which brought in a social layer with sort of multiple levels and other engagements like bells and whistles. All this really helped drive the engagement or the gaming experience for the users, as well as increase the monetization revenue for them. At the same time, Facebook itself was very convenient because they could roll out these feature additions, tweaks in real time, see how the gamers were reacting, and pivot quickly if needed. And with that, what really happened was that Sudoku Quest became one of the most popular games in the Sudoku vertical for Hashcube. They garnered more than 3 million players. And the partnership with Nazara was really a kind of a slingshot which propelled Hashcube into a whole new dimension to be able to make money. So once they tasted success with this kind of a partnership, they changed gears in 2015 to become a holding company and started looking for other suitors. And a few examples which we have mentioned is that they invested an undisclosed amount in a London-based lifestyle game franchisee called Truly Social. They acquired a 26% stake in Mastermind Sports, which was another UK-based gaming studio. And the intent again there was that for game developers, Nazara was one of the most sought after choices to break into the Indian market. They already had a sizable Indian gaming base, plus when they had entered into other countries, they were quickly expanding there also. So they had a ready gaming base, and game developers could quickly build games for them. Apart from that, what they also realized was that they wanted to retain their pulse on the Indian market. And for that, they signed licensing deals with the stars in the Indian market who had sort of unbeatable fan following. So they signed licensing deals with Virat Kohli, Hrithik Roshan, and all of that. And on the content side, they bagged exclusive rights to build and publish games, which included Chota Bheem, as well as characters from popular comic book series like Amar Chitra Katha. So net, while they were sort of expanding organically also, they started building this ambition around 2015, 2016 that building a gaming empire was possible, and because of which they started going down the acquisition route and became a holding company.
It's just a lot of things going on there, and we were finally able to find this amazing business model that scaled really well. Shelly, can you tell us about their IPO and what do you think about the future of Nazara?
Yeah, so like Keshav mentioned, in after 2017, since they had already started this model of driving growth through acquisitions, they the first time that they initially launched, decided to go for an IPO was in 2017. But Geo came in, and there was a lot of change in the way that mobile gamers were using internet, and Geo was providing these bundling services, which kind of collapsed the vast market that Nazara had already created and was banking on. So Nazara again had to pivot and start investing in the gaming space. uh, for example, in 2018, they invested in Nodwin Gaming, which is esports, which creates esports games and launches tournaments and leagues. So I think what Nazara did in the acquisitions was that they wanted to try out different spaces, because as in the history also they had been trying to experiment and pivot. So here also, like, they invested in 2018 in Nodwin in esports. They invested in Kidopia, which is an early learning segment. Then they invested in Hala Play, which is a fantasy gaming play. So I think when you look at it from a overall perspective, we think that, okay, what is Nazara doing? Why is it spending money everywhere? But their core philosophy of doing this is addressing a large total addressable market. So because gaming is developing not as just for gamers, but as a more like a community activity. So it's developing in the form of learning tool also. Like, gamified learning is one segment where you can cater to the kids of age, let's say 0 to 14. Then when they move as teenagers, they start playing those games. So you have a segment there where you can target those gamers. Then there is a separate audience of age group 25 to 50, where you can again pitch games like Bug. So Bug is a regional social platform that they recently invested in, and which aims at targeting women, giving women a platform to organize virtual kitty parties. So in a way, if you see, they are not just targeting the gamers, because that gaming population in India not would be limited. It's right now it's at 365 million. It's growing at a 40% CAGR. But to target, to increase their market, they should either increase their width, or they should go to other markets. So I think overall that is the strategy that they have been following. And with regards to the IPO, Nazara is the only pure play gaming company in India to go for an IPO. So the oversubscription was nothing of a surprise, I think. Coming to the future of Nazara, if we see, I think a comparison with Tencent would be right in terms of understanding, because Tencent is also again an acquisition led growth strategy. So just a second. So I think with respect to Tencent, if we want to compare it, sorry.
Uh, Definitely
Yeah.
bright future for Nazara. A lot more to look forward to after that incredible IPO. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. No.
Thank you so much for tuning in to a Junior VC Unfiltered. Click on the subscribe button to stay tuned for more. We hope you enjoyed this episode and we'll see you next week.